Thank you.
There we go. Okay. Good evening. This is the Board of Selectmen meeting for Thursday, January 14th, 2016. We're going to start with a continued public hearing on the petition of Verizon New England and National Grid to install one jointly owned pole number T.33S/E.33-84 on the easterly side of Hudson Road at a point approximately 1,200 feet northerly from the center line of Century Mill Road. Come on up and...
Yes, sir. Should I come to this seat or right here? Wow, this is not seat. This is close.
Maybe too close.
We'll see about that. All right, my name is Thomas Lickarz. E as in boy, L-I-C-H-A-R-Z, as in zebra. And I work for UC Synergetic in Mansfield, Mass. We are consultants for Verizon, and for engineering and for rights-of-way. So I'm here on behalf of Verizon to petition for this pole on Hudson Road. I believe it was left at the last hearing that you were going to go out, the selectmen were going to go out and check the stakes that were in place. So this was the second time that we had placed those stakes, so hopefully they're still in place. Anyways, the main line pole is on a bend in the road. It's on a corner. And if you look really carefully, you'd see that that main line pole is being supported with a guy wire across the street into a tree over the bank. And that pole being on the corner, there's vectors or forces exerted on that pole. It wants to take that pole over the ditch. So we need to guide it and support it on the other side of the street. So the pole that we are proposing is a support pole, and we are going to remove the guy wire from the tree that's currently holding that pole and attach it to the support pole. So this is why we like it. Now, when the N-Grid does an upgrade to its lines, as a matter of course, it looks for these guys that are in trees and it removes them as a matter of course. Back in the day, utility companies placed these tree guys for expediency purposes to hold the pole. It saved the hearing. It, we didn't have to do any petitioning. We just stuck the wire into a tree and got out of town. We didn't ask any permission, we didn't ask any questions, we just did it. And that was the way it was done 30, 40, 50 years ago. So we don't do that anymore. And the ones that we do find, we try to take out because eventually the tree's going to rot and it's going to pull out on its own. So this is an attempt to remove the tree guy and do the work properly.
So when I was out there a week or so ago, looked like there were two white stakes there?
Yes, sir.
And this pole will be going between those two?
No, sir.
Or-
There are two stakes. One stake is for the support pole itself.
Okay, so it'll be going where the stakes are?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
The second stake is where the anchor is going to go.
okay,
So the wire will come across the street, attached to the stub pole, we'll stick an anchor in the ground,
Mhm.
drill it in, and then there'll be down guys to that anchor.
okay.
So that's the system.
Okay. There's a more question, there are a few places where poles have been put fairly close to the side of the road, and I want to avoid that.
Okay?
Some on a long hill where you're coming around a corner and the pole is like right there, so if you cut the corner too tightly, you're in trouble.
Yep.
Okay, any questions, comments,
I'm fine with it.
concerns? Martha?
Martha Remington, Main Street. I went out looking for the poles on these three pole issues here. I didn't see any poles today. It didn't seem like the snow had been plowed over them. I think I did see the one on Green Road prior to today, but
Yeah, I mean, I went out a week and a half ago, and I did see all three of them,
Thank you.
so. Any issues?
Yeah, I visited before the last meeting,
Mhm.
and and I had been in touch with two different engineers about it too. So all locations were staked, and I visited all three of them.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Good.
Motion?
Make a motion that we approve the petition by Verizon New England and Massachusetts Electric Company and Grid to install one jointly owned pole, number T33S/E.33-84 on the easterly side of Hudson Road at a point approximately 1,200 feet northerly from the center line of Century Mill Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next one, is continued public hearing on the petition of Verizon and National Grid to install one jointly owned pole, number T.3S/E.3-84 on the southwesterly side of Green Road at a point approximately 300 feet southeasterly from the center line of Main Street.
Yes, sir. I was out there this evening, the stakes are there. So this is a situation very similar to the first one, but not exactly. The mainline pole, pole 3, is the break-off pole for cables feeding the school on that corner. And so the break-off pole is held by a tree guy. There's a wire into the tree across the street. And so here again, as I said earlier, we'd like to remove that tree guide before the branch rots out, place a stub pole and an anchor behind it, and that's the proper way to hold that pole. So, very similar circumstances.
Okay.
Concerns, questions?
I'm fine with it.
Martha Remington, Main Street. The wording of this particular pole on Green Road is changed from your December 3rd and December 17th agendas. And my question is this stub pole going to be, or pole going to be on the west side of Green Road?
Green
Because
Road-
before it was going to be on the east side. That was
Green Road
incorrect.
is actually running east-west there, so it would be it's on the south side. So 117 turns a little bit north and Green comes off. Here.
So, but is it going to be on the Shelburne Regional High School side or the other side?
Opposite side.
Opposite side.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
I would just make sure that this is worded properly, because it didn't make sense the first time, the second time it still wasn't quite making sense. So you're sure that they're both southeasterly now?
Yeah, it's correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yep, yep. I voiced some concern about that, and Linda took care of it, so. Mark, any?
Noticed that, once again, right before the last meeting, we went out and did a site visit, saw the poles. There is a need for some sort of support. It's unfortunate that the homeowners do maintain that it's a rough lawn, but they do maintain it, so now they're going to be staring at a yellow booted guy wire. It's now going to be right in their front lawn. But it doesn't look like there's any chance of putting a push pole on that pole because the way all the utilities come off and going to the school. Once again, I'm not a big fan of having poles opposite from each other on the roads that are already very narrow. But it doesn't seem like a push pole would work very well there, just because there's an awful lot of stuff coming off that feeds the high school.
And the homeowner could have been here to express their
Exactly.
concerns if they wanted to be, so they were noticed on it, so. Okay. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the petition from Verizon New England and Massachusetts General Electric Company and Grid to install one jointly owned pole, number T.3S/E.3-84 on the southwesterly side of Green Road at a point approximately 350 feet southeasterly from the center line of Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And finally, just to continue the fun here, continued public hearing on the petition of Verizon and National Grid to install one jointly owned pole, number T.20S/E.20-84 on the westerly side of Sampson Road at a point approximately 700 feet from the center line of Green Road.
In this case here, the main line pole, pole 20, is on a bend. The pole is being held by a tree guy into a large oak tree. So we want to remove that tree guy and attach it to the stub pole with an anchor behind it. 5 or 6 foot lead. So You know, we normally like to get a longer lead, meaning the anchor set further back from the pole because it gives better support. But in this case, we're only going to stay in the public way. We're only probably going to have about a 5-foot lead on that, but we'll just do the best we can to hold
Okay.
everything together. So, stakes are there.
They're correct that the pole is being guided. The reason the pole is being pulled out of line is there's a house service wires that come off of that, similar to what feeds Neshoba on the prior pole. So that the pole's being pulled out of line, not only because it's on a slight bend, but also the house service wires are pulling it away from being plumb. Sampson Road is extremely narrow in that stretch. The public taking is very narrow, like they had mentioned. The pole seems relatively close to the pavement. Like I said, I'm not an engineer. This seemed like it would be a good place to put a push pole. It would stay, you know, I realize the utility companies shy away from stuff like that because it means getting an easement from private homeowners and stuff instead of staying within the town easement. But it does, that road bed is very narrow there and it drops off drastically on both sides. I would love to see the pole further back away from the road, but like you said, keeping it within the town easement is not going to happen.
Is there even a foot that we might be able to get?
It depends on what you can do for your guy wires, but, you know, a foot would make a big difference in that stretch.
Would you prefer a foot or two if we could get it?
Whatever you can push back would be muchly appreciated. I don't even know if a sidewalk guy wire, a sidewalk guy would work there.
And that's
or not.
probably going to be a sidewalk guy there anyways, because of the short lead, 5 feet, 6 feet, okay? All right. I mean, definitely, we could make a real attempt to move that pole even a foot or two off the traveled way. I don't know how you want to work this, if you want to have us just move the stake back, do you want to meet an engineer out there maybe, or
I think that if you
just,
make a
we
motion.
just did it?
Yeah, and just move the pole a minimum of a foot back from where it is.
Okay.
Inches would make a difference. Because when two cars pass and your mirrors stick out further, and especially if you meet an oil truck, a school bus, which doesn't travel on that road, you need as much room as you can get.
Yep.
Okay.
You could make, I don't want to tell you.
Yeah, sure.
Anything else?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the pole petition between Verizon New England Inc. and Massachusetts Electric Company to install one jointly owned pole number T.20S/E.20-84 on the westerly side of Sampson Road at a point approximately 700 feet from the center line of Green Road, and also for Verizon and the National Grid to attempt to move the pole back at least 1 foot.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Yep, good seeing you all again.
You too.
Go Patriots.
These are the documents that you need to sign.
Good night now.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, on the next,
That's
no,
good.
yeah. And then on the next page is selectmen.
Yes, you're the clerk.
And then,
So do you want me to?
No, I'm the
Are you the clerk?
I'll fix it.
Oh, Stan's the clerk.
I'm the clerk. Oh,
but, wait, there's still more though,
wait, there's more.
so.
If you sign before midnight tonight.
That's right, we'll include free shipping and handling. Yes, I have to work midnight tonight.
The paperwork is always one.
Okay. Okay, next is a recommendation from Chief Nelson to review and execute the Middlesex Mutual Aid Agreement.
How are you? We will. A couple of years back, I think, everybody's got paperwork.
Yes.
Retired Chief Alfano got us into the Worcester County Mutual Aid Agreement, which is through CEMA, Central Mass Law Enforcement Council. And what that opened up is more mutual aid. It empowered the Bolton officers to possibly take action if they're outside of our jurisdiction. And it was recommended by SEMLEC that, seeing we do border the Middlesex County, that we join the Middlesex County Mutual Aid Agreement, which again, if we're going to the state police lab in either Sudbury or Acton, going to court in Air, Concord, or anything like that, and an officer that's on duty sees something that may have to take action, they could do it in those towns of that mutual aid agreement. And obviously, in 1988, I think it was the LeBlanc ruling, where if you came to the edge of the town, you had to let them go. You couldn't chase, you couldn't follow them into the other town, unless you had an arrestable offense or they were running from you. But for a simple traffic, non-arrestable offense, you had to just let them go. 117 or 110 is a great example. If you weren't fast enough, they would get over the Lancaster line and be gone. But now that we're in SEMLEC, or the mutual aid for Worcester County, we can go into Lancaster and stop that car and enforce the traffic violation we saw. Same thing if we saw a traffic violation that was serious, and again, they've said we'll probably rarely, if ever, use this, but it's signed, and if it all goes through, we have that opportunity for public safety, that an officer could take action on an event that they may witness. Otherwise, they'd have to call that town, get permission to stop the car, and that could take a lot of seconds, a lot of minutes that sometimes gets wasted. So that's what they've recommended, is that the town sign the Middlesex County Mutual Aid Agreement, so that we have the same power.
I'm good with that. I have any questions?
I had talked to Don about the one I had about the insurance, but I guess the carrier knows you're indemnifying all the other parties involved.
Yes, so I think it's the Bolton officers would all be identified. And then,
Yes, there's, under Section 7, it was indemnification for all involved, and we sent that language to Murphy, and they said they were fine with it. Okay.
And then the only other question, so say you arrest somebody in Stowe, so you're going to Concord, I see in the agreement that you apprised the Stowe officer in the example of everything that happened. Would it be a Bolton officer that goes to the court, or would it be a Stowe?
yeah, it'll still be Bolton. We'd have to probably go to the Middlesex court, Concord court. But yes, because it happened in that jurisdiction. If it happened in Bolton, and we chased them into Stowe to get them, say if somebody broke into a house, and by the time we got there, they had already made it into Stowe, we still could arrest them and then bring them over because the offense happened in Bolton.
Okay.
But if the offense happened in Stowe, we would go to the Concord court. And Pam Powell sent me a letter that confirmed back in, I think it was 1981-ish, maybe 1998, that the Chapter 40, Section 8G had been accepted by the town and adopted. So that's just the mutual aid agreement. And years ago, we would have to have a signed agreement from every town, or every officer would have to be a special or a reserve in every town, just to get around the LeBlanc rule.
I don't have any concerns.
I'm fine with it.
Mr. Chairman, does this mean we'll be members of both the Middlesex and the Worcester County mutual aid agreements?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, so we can go into any...
Our own county and the other county.
Well, yeah, I mean, most importantly, it's more surrounding towns is really more where it's geared, but it also, I guess, in a serious emergency, you could get tapped to go anywhere in either county.
Yes, it could, yeah. And if we're driving over to Sudbury and
Yeah.
something happens, that's 2 or 3 towns over.
Yeah.
Something could happen on the way. That might happen.
And of course, the same could happen for anybody outside. They can come into Bolton. If they're chasing somebody or something, they can come into
Yes.
Bolton.
Yes. Yep. As long as they're in the Middlesex agreement.
As long as they're in the Worcester
The
agreement.
Worcester agreement, right.
Yeah.
Depends on which way they're coming from.
Yeah, if somebody's chasing through Bolton and then into Stowe, then, yeah, anyway, let's not worry about that at the moment. Okay. We just need a straight motion on this? Okay.
Make a motion that we accept the recommendation of Police Chief Nelson to execute the Middlesex Mutual Aid Agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Do you want for them to sign or do you?
I think just one.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, we.
Okay, we're going to head here a little bit. Okay, next is a recommendation from Police Chief Nelson to appoint Jose Santiago as a full-time police officer.
Good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Per our usual process, we conducted a series of interviews with police officer candidates from the short list that we created from the original applicants. We interviewed, I think it was, what, 6, Chief? that day?
Six candidates.
And Jose was definitely our top choice. He was extremely impressive and has gone through all the background check, et cetera, that he needs to go to, and we're excited to get him started. I think he's going to be a great addition to the department.
Did a very extensive background check. Everything came back great. His employers have said they don't want to lose him. They really don't want us to hire him. He came very highly recommended.
That's great.
It's always a trade-off. Do you give a good recommendation to really, or do you tank the...
Well, we didn't find that, so everything was looking very well. He's been at Salem State for 4 years now. Had some correction employment before this, so he's got probably 8 to 10 years of law enforcement experience. And fluent in Spanish. Hard worker, from what I can see.
Good. Okay. Well, welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
No, anything from... No, okay.
What town?
Well,
What town do you live in?
I live in Methuen.
Thanks.
Good, we'll get him started. I'll get him started right away, maybe tomorrow if we can.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Jose Santiago full-time police officer.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Welcome aboard.
Have to get that pinning ceremony
Bienvenidos.
scheduled.
We will. Thank you, John.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, oh. Let's see, Mike,
I'll get that.
Yeah, I saw him next door.
please, here, you can get some extra 5 minutes here. You're on. Okay, next, as soon as Mike gets here, is a discussion regarding the adoption of the stretch code and the impact it would have on the building code.
How you doing? Mike, how are you?
Good to see everyone.
Good to see you too.
Okay, just want me to go through the explanation of how it works, and I'll answer any questions. I know I've got to be relatively brief because you got a big meeting, so...
Any
Any impact
quick
on-
summary of what it is and then...
Yeah, just how it works and the impacts that we've seen.
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty much essentially, the way that it works is that any community that has not adopted the stretch code uses right now the 2012 International Energy Conservation Code. That is the building code for energy compliance, which the layman on the street considers that to be insulation, but now it's so much more than just insulation. It's lighting and energy efficiency appliances and things of that nature. So if you're not a stretch code community, you are in the 2012 International Energy Code. If you are a stretch code community, you use the 2009 International Energy Code, because when the stretch code was adopted, they failed to modify the stretch code. When they modified the new 2009 Energy Code, went to the 2012, that's the base energy code, they forgot to modify it, so we still default back to the 2009. The stretch code will be modified more than likely this coming year, so there will be some modifications to it. So in a nutshell, the way that it works, communities have the opportunity to locally adopt what's called the stretch code. The stretch code is a part of an amendment, it's an amendment to the Massachusetts State Building Code. That amendment allows, if a community adopts the stretch code, and they at a later date could go back to town meeting and opt out of that. So you can vote out of it if you decide you don't want to stay in it. A lot of reasons why towns do it is so that they can become a green community, they can get some benefits, some money and grant money from the government by becoming a green community. The other reason why towns do it, because they feel that it makes sense for their community to upgrade. The stretch code is technically regulated, or the way that it's kind of set up for compliance is that it looks at what the building code was in 2006 as a base, and how we were insulating houses in 2006. And now if you adopt the stretch code, if you were to use the current code or the 2006 code, because if we went to the 2009, it's 20% better than what a community without the stretch code will have to insulate or become energy efficient use, 20% better. Not just insulation, could be your gas-fired furnace, could be your oil burner has a higher efficiency. So that's pretty much how it works. What I did was I put together for everyone a packet that you can look at a later date, even if you want to get a little more familiar, because it's more involved than what you think, but to the layman on the street and for purposes of adoption, they want to know how much money is it going to cost, how is it going to affect me. So pretty much, just to go down each of these categories very quickly, if you were to adopt the stretch code, who has to follow the stretch code? Single-family homes, new commercial buildings, additions to single-family homes, renovations to single-family homes, and additions to commercial buildings do apply. But there are certain types of size requirements for commercial buildings. I won't get too much into the commercial aspect of it, because we don't have a lot of commercial buildings, and there are exceptions for commercial buildings if the stretch code is adopted. There are exceptions for if you were to replace equipment, you're exempt from the code. If you were to refabricate a wall, or to repair an area, or to do an interior renovation of the building, you do not have to comply with the stretch code. Certain buildings, commercial buildings, 5,000 square feet or less, or if they are particularly just for storage purposes, are exempt from the stretch code. So larger commercial buildings, it applies to them. A lot of them are being built that way anyway. So that's who it affects. So for the purposes of being quick tonight, how does it work for the homeowner? Because that's primarily what we have, residential. So what would happen is, right now, we're currently under the 2012 energy code. In that code, it jumped up from the 2009 code. Right now, next year, this coming year, they are going to adopt the 9th edition of the Mass General Code. They will probably modify the stretch code. That will come into effect sometime during the year. So those communities that are in the stretch code are going to have to go with any modification, if they do any modifications. So in a nutshell, the layman on the street knows he has to insulate his house, knows he has to buy a furnace and do these other things. So what's the real difference? What do we see as the real difference here? And how does it affect the homeowner? So the real difference right now is in the 2012 base energy code, you're not a stretch code community yet. A person has to put an R20 insulation bat in the wall. They have to put an R49 insulation layer in the attic or ceiling area. So R49 in the attic, R20 in the wall, R30 in the floor of your cellar. You also have to do mandatory requirements out of the base code. And the base code has mandatory requirements. Those requirements you can see will be on the last 2 pages. One is that not only do you follow what's called prescriptive. So somebody right now, there's 2 ways of complying with both codes, the base energy code or the stretch code. There's 2 ways of complying. The first way is, in the stretch code, you have to get what's called a HERS rater. A HERS rater is a home energy rating certified individual that gets trained, and what he does is he'll come in and he will look at the quality of the installation of the materials. He will rate how well did that wall get done. I can go in as the building official, say, yeah, okay, you're all insulated, R20 bat, yeah, you meet the code. Yeah, a little sloppy over here, put a little piece here, try to dress it up a little bit. You could pick away all day long at people. Well, the HERS rating guy comes in, and that's basically giving you a certificate of how energy efficient, call it the Star Energy Home, how energy efficient is your house. So he'll come in and he'll do an actual rating from 1 to 3 of the quality of the work. It meets the code, but did you do a super job, an okay job, or an acceptable job? And it gets a rating. They also have what's called, and these are the major components I'm giving you, there's a whole host more that is really obscure to the public, and they don't really need to know that at this point, because it'd be too much information for them to even try to figure it out. And a lot of it will not apply to them, because a lot of the stretch code is commercial in nature. There's a small section in residential. So what happens is, the person goes and they have to get what's called a HERS rater. The HERS rater comes in and he gives me a report when he gets his building permit. Now, currently, we get what's called a res check. That's a residential computer compliance disc that goes in. The builder or the supplier will do a rating on the house. You have to pass that particular res check computer program. You have to be a percentage over code requirement. What they're allowing is, in both codes, is a performance compliance, which is by computer programs. What do you have in your ceiling? What do you have in your walls? What do you have for number of doors? What do you have for windows? What do you have for an efficiency of your boiler? And they add all those things together, all of those components together, and if you do okay, you meet the code through what's called the res check, the computer program. I can accept that computer program in the 2012 base code, which Bolton uses today. If we went to the HERS rater, it still is a computer-generated program. It's a performance level also. The HERS rater finds the performance of the house, and the different ratings on the first sheet, you'll see the different ratings have to be met based on the size of the house. Like a 3,000 square foot house or larger for a new home has to have a HERS index of 65 or less. The HERS index is based on 100. So a 3,000 square foot home that is or larger needs a HERS index of 65 or less. The 100 is what they consider the base of how we were insulating houses in 2006. So if you go stretch code, we're doing 20% better. The HERS rating has to be a 65 or less. As you get to smaller homes, you gotta be like a 70 or less. And then it'll go for additions for HERS rating. They talk about additions and renovations, which impact people. Addition and renovations for residential structures. You could put an addition on your house if you stretch code. You can renovate your house and rip a wall out or open up the exterior wall if you stretch code. But you still have to comply. But they will allow you to comply in the stretch code with an addition or a renovation. You can comply by either using a performance method, which is the HERS rater, and he does the HERS rating and sends in his program on that addition. Some people put additions as big as their houses. Or you can also use a prescriptive method if you're in the stretch code. Prescriptive means you're not building a new home, you're opening up a wall. So what we're going to do is, if you open the wall, either meet the code with that insulation that needs to go into that cavity that now is exposed, now it's on the 1800s house, now there's no insulation in the wall, or it's very little insulation. They say, if you stretch code, we'll let you put the addition on, but comply with the 2009 energy code, put an R20 in the wall. Or, if that can't be met, fill the cavity complete, whichever is less. So they opened it up so that people aren't that worried about, hey, what about my house? Does my whole house have to comply? No, just the addition, just the renovation aspect of it. It's meant to be able to meet the requirements. In other words, either meet the code or go less. Well, why would they say less if they're telling you to meet the code? Well, if you got a 2x4 wall and you can't get an R20 in a 2x4 wall, fill the cavity. So I have the people fill the cavity with the highest density insulation they can get. So that's an alternative. So the stretch code really doesn't affect very much the addition or the renovation. Other people will say, well, geez, what if I tear a window out? I pop a window out. What happens now? Well, if you put new windows in your house, you have to comply with the energy code. And if you are a stretch code community and you pop a window out, you have to comply with the 2009 energy code for what they call the U factor, which is the air infiltration from the window. You have to comply and meet a certain 0.30 or 0.33 U factor, which complies with the code for the window. So if you have an existing house and you want to fix the broken sash, you can fix the broken sash. You can fix the frame. You can replace the glass in like kind, single pane, in an old historical house, which some historical houses are actually exempt from the stretch code, but they have to really qualify to do that. The other thing is, if the homeowner had an old house and they had a busted window by a baseball, they have to take the whole window out and comply with the code. They have the ability to change it in like. But if the whole window comes out and goes in, that window has to comply with the code. It has to be a new energy efficient code. So the argument that a lot of the builders have posed is that it's going to cost a lot of money to the homeowner and to the builder if you are to build a stretch code house. And what I found is, I just recently, in the last year and a half, I built a brand new house in Leominster. They're a stretch code community. I built a stretch code house. Where I'm the building official in Lunenburg. We have now had for 2 years the stretch code. All of our houses are being built on the stretch code. The difference with the stretch code, and then I'll get into the cost, and then we can kind of wrap it up unless there's questions. The difference in the cost, I mean, in the 2012, which we're in now, and the stretch code, I want to give you just a handful of the changes that were from one code to the other, and why it might be beneficial for the community to jump into the stretch at this time, which in Lunenburg, I think I spoke once or twice in opposition at town meeting, and then the last time I spoke in favor of it, because I see what's happening with the energy codes. We have to keep in mind, the federal government has mandated that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, every 3 years, we have to upgrade our energy code mandated by federal government. So we're going from the 2009 International Energy Code, if you're a stretch code community, to whichever one they're going to reference when it's modified. Right now it's 2009. We're currently in the 2012 Energy Code in Bolton, non-stretch code community at this time. That's going to jump probably up to the 2015 code, because we're skipping the 12, which is already in effect. But we're going to the 2015 code for building, and they'll probably jump the 2012 Energy Code into that with upgrades. Every 3 years, the federal government mandates you have to adopt it and institute it so that they all get a percentage increase in every 3 years. It gets better and better. The houses are getting tighter and tighter, which gets into mechanical ventilation, and there's a lot of arguments for and against that. Are we building houses too tight? If you properly do it and you properly mechanically ventilate, it works fine. The problem is you gotta do a real good job to make it work fine, so that you don't have it too tight. That's the problem. That's the problem. So basically, the biggest differences I've seen from the stretch code, these are the primary differences that I see from the stretch code, because right now, it's almost like the 2012 Energy Code is making it as difficult or more than meeting the requirements of the stretch code. If you're currently a stretch code community right now, you can use an R38 in your attic instead of an R49. If you're not a stretch code community, you're using an R49, R38 bat, R49. Do they make one? What do? Put foam insulation, then spray, then do this? Is everybody gonna have to get to spraying the foam to get a higher density, to get a higher R value? But that's one of the dilemmas right now is stretch code communities can use an R38, that might jump to 49, who knows, as a default. And you can punch in how many air changes an hour you need on your house. So the air changes an hour are another big aspect of it. The air changes per hour is that if you're a stretch code community, the compliance, the HERS rater can give me a report and he can say, as he does when he comes in to get the permit, he's gonna show me how he's gonna comply. Then at the end, he does comply, he gives me a certificate of compliance. He has to do a blower door test. The 2012 code also makes the blower door test now mandatory. In 2009, it wasn't. The stretch code, you have to do a blower door test. 2009, you didn't have to. We jumped to the 2012 in Bolton, non-stretch code, you gotta do a blower door test. So you're already doing the blower door test. You also have to do, if you're not a stretch code community, or if you are a stretch code, either one, the Energy Star thermal checklist. Still gonna comply with all this, seal everything, put the vapor barrier, caulk this, caulk that. And you also have to comply with the air barrier criteria, which is your vapor barriers in certain areas. If you have now, you don't see many of them anymore, but when you see the brick fireplaces, you now need to have a gasketed damper to meet the energy code. So I guess what I'm getting at, if you look at the stretch code, and you look at the 2012 that we're in now, because we're not stretch code, they're not that much different, other than, because now the blower door test is mandatory, which was one of the big expenses. There was arguments before that stretch code, because you gotta get a HERS rater, do the blower door test, basically it's gonna cost, $1,300, $1,800 a house more. Well, my house was done for $800. Just a standard, basic house, but 2,500 square foot house, $800. Some guys are doing it right around that, maybe a little more. Also, there are leak tests that need to be done on HVAC equipment. So if you have ductwork that's in an attic area or in a basement that doesn't have a formal source of heat, can't be just a furnace in the corner, then you have to have a leak test done on your ductwork, and you can't get more than 4 cubic feet a minute of air coming out of the duct. And you have to have a test done. Now that test has to be done by the HERS rater in a stretch code community. Blower door test also has to be done, and they have to be done in the 2012. And that's the biggest part of some of your cost. So realistically, the differences are, you're putting more insulation in your attic right now if you're not a stretch code community. The problem is, you're not getting trade-offs. When you go with the stretch code, you don't have to meet, which now in the 2012, you have to meet 3 air changes an hour or less in the 2012. That's mandatory now, 3 air changes an hour. If you are a stretch code community, the HERS rater can say how many air changes you're gonna put in. He put in 5 air changes an hour for my house. I came in at 4.7 air changes an hour. So I said, how come my brother, who built a ranch, got 1.7 or 2 point something air changes an hour, and I got 4 point something? I super sealed, I caulked, I did everything. Because when they do the blower door test, what they do is they take a shroud over your door, everything is sealed. All your ducts and everything, your windows, trap doors, attic access, and they put a big fan in the door, and they blow, what they do is they take a little computer, and they stick a hose outside, and they get the barometric pressure to the outside. It's registered in what they call pascals. When you hit 50 pascals on the computer, you've balanced the air pressure inside the house with the air pressure outside. Once it hits 50 pascals, they start it. The fan blows. Within about 2 to 3 minutes, it's done, it's over, it's sucked the air out of your house, sucked the air through your house, through all your leaks, and you got no less than 3 air changes an hour. I got 4.7. My brother got 2. What was the difference? If you have an attic and you have the wall studs that go up to the attic, and those plates on the top are not sealed, what happens is no matter how good you do on your outside walls, when you do the blower door test, you're sucking air down through the plates of the interior walls from the attic. They come down the empty cavities of the interior wall, and it comes out of your baseboard areas, it comes out of your plugs, and the air, you'll actually feel the air being driven out.
Mike, I'm sorry, as you wrap up, what's the takeaway you want to give the selectmen?
Well, the takeaway I want to give is, it's my opinion at this point in time, that the cost to go into the stretch code for the homeowner, and more than likely for the commercial businessman also, is marginal with what it costs you now to comply with the regular code. It's negligible, in my opinion. If you're gonna pay $800 or $1,000 more to have a stretch energy home, and the community's gonna get the benefits by becoming a green community, and knowing how they are jumping the energy code up, and I was told that by the year 2025, the government wants net zero houses to be built as the code. So it's coming. Another 10, 15 years, we're gonna have houses, by the time you build them, they're gonna be energy efficient with geo, solar's upgraded. So bottom line is, I think the stretch code is the way to go now. The primary reason, 2 of them. One is the costs have come down for getting the HERS raters. There are more of them out there now because it's been around a few years. And the other benefit is that it just negligible price-wise for what you're paying for the benefit you're gonna get out in the long run. And it really doesn't sting you as much as you would think for an addition or a renovation. And to be honest with you, I'm a reasonable inspector. You know, when there's a situation, because the code says fill the cavity, you do the best you can, and that's all I'm looking for. If you can comply with the code, comply, but if you can't, do the best you can, and we work with you. Because there's some situations that you'll never be able to meet code with some of these old houses, but you do the best. I'm not opposed to it, I think it's a good idea. It gives you, the primary thing is, other than the money being almost equal now, it gives you trade-offs to be able to design your house and use trade-offs as opposed to prescriptive. In other words, you know, hey, I'm gonna put in a 96% efficient boiler, so I'm only gonna do 30 in my attic, because I can't do R38 or R49 if it jumps to that. Okay, but you still meet the code in the performance of it. And that's what it's all about. It's not the big thing it used to be, and I think close to 3/4 of the communities in the Commonwealth now are in the stretch code, and you can always opt to get out. But I've never got one complaint from anyone relative to the stretch code in the community that has the stretch code at this time.
We don't have a decision tonight.
No,
vote.
this is informational for the selectmen.
And the information I have, give a little more clarity on it.
This has to go to town meeting.
It does, so we have to go to
Yeah.
town meeting.
Go to town meeting.
Okay. But whether or not you, I mean, you have a long way to go before you need to decide whether or not you want to recommend it.
I have all types of information on the stretch code. I could get into it as deep as you want to get. You don't want to get that deep
Please
into
don't.
it. No. I was warned,
Thanks, Mike.
Extra document.
Oh, yeah, good.
Do you have an extra one too?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question for Mr. Summerville. If you have an historical house that has either water damage from ice damming or fire damage, relatively small,
Yep.
will these extra fees for all of this testing?
That doesn't
How
apply,
are
that won't apply.
insurance
That will not,
companies
that would not apply.
paying these?
That would not apply. Well, insurance is insurance, they handle it however
Yeah,
they
but I
want.
mean, are they keeping up with these extra $1,300, $800, testing fees?
Well, what you're finding is, in the stretch code, as I said, you don't have to do that, because you can go prescriptive. You can go, here's what you gotta remember, in all the energy codes, whether it's stretch code or not, you got 2 options. Prescriptive, I'll take the prescriptive route. The code says you will put R49 in your attic, you will put R20 in your wall. That's prescriptive. Do what the code says and it complies. You don't wanna put R49 in the attic? Do the performance, do the computer program to get, so, and that's the option. That's where you get your option. I don't want to do that, I'd rather do this, because my design won't allow it. Just quick to get to your point, Martha, the burnouts, the roof collapse and I gotta re-insulate it, or I got water damage, that's in the section of repair, in additions, and alterations, which you can go prescriptive. You don't need the HERS rater unless you choose to use him. So, it doesn't really affect that. And the broken window can get replaced as long as you're not pulling the whole window out, you can fix what you have.
So I think if you had water damage, you had to fix a wall, you'd probably want to insulate there anyway.
But yeah, and the code will say, yeah.
But you don't need to rip out all of the wall.
Don't even have to touch the rest of your house, only what you touch in the renovation. I don't go in and say, this whole house has to comply, only what you're working on.
Cut the house and insulate it.
And that's how the code works, not just me, that's, only what you're doing applies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay,
Yeah, when is the 2015 update going to be adopted, the new stretch code? It might make sense to wait till
Well, I was told, to wait for the state, I don't know, but I was told that from the BBRS, which is our regulators at the Department of Public Safety, that the new code, the new 2015 code should be adopted within a few months, hopefully by June. Then I was told 2 weeks later, yeah, maybe January of 17.
for the 2015 code.
For the 2015 code, right.
And the stretch code won't come till after the...
It may come simultaneously if they have modified it in their deliberations now, which we've got no evidence of that. You've got to anticipate it will be modified, but so won't the other codes. So I mean, whether stretch does this, the other codes are following it anyway. But again, you either opt in or decide later to opt out if you want, but right now, it's not as, I don't know, onerous or whatever the word would be as people thought it was. It's actually not a bad idea.
When it first came out, the rules around additions and
Huge change, yeah.
renovations was much stricter.
Really scary, yeah, really scary.
But they've backed off on
Yeah.
that, so most homeowners wouldn't be grossly affected by it.
No, it's very little impact to the homeowners, and if you're using energy efficient, furnaces and appliances like that, you can get tax rebates and stuff.
There's other questions.
Hi, this is Moore,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. I'm Laura Kistitz from 113 Berlin Road, and I'm with Bolton Local. And I guess my question really for the selectmen and Dawn is, now that Mike has given his opinion, do you have enough information to go to the next step of having a joint meeting with the selectmen and the planning board to discuss this further, to see if collectively you can recommend that the town pursue green community, trying to vote this through at town meeting? While Dawn said you have a lot of time to make a decision, you do, but we have to get this on the warrant for the town meeting and educate the whole town about this, so.
I have other
Not to put you on the
information.
spot.
We need to look at scheduling a time with the planning board where we can have a joint meeting so you can discuss it further.
Right.
And we'll work, and I'm very cognizant of the time schedule we're on for the warrant, so we'll certainly we'll make that happen.
I have some, questions and questions, frequently asked questions, cut sheets and stuff. I can get another packet together I'll give it to Erica, and then she can do is circulate it, and if you guys need me for anything else, just feel free to call me, I can come in and talk.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Okay, thanks.
So we're getting just a sense of the board to see if we want to pursue planning or...
Well, I'll pursue,
Or you'll schedule planning and we'll go from there.
I will schedule a meeting with planning. I'll try to schedule a meeting with planning as aggressively as you like. I'm assuming that's the next step you want.
Well, who's actually going to be putting the article on the warrant? Is this the planning board?
It can be either. It can be the planning board or it can be the selectmen.
I think we should move forward and discuss with the planning board. I think to Mike's point, it's less onerous than it was the last time.
I just wanted to make sure that we were all in agreement on that, so, okay. So I think,
Okay.
invite the planning board in that, and this feeds into the, what we talked about the last meeting, some of the energy grants and such. Yeah. So we need the stretch code adopted, and then we qualify for some, or can get involved in some other grants and such.
Well, the stretch code is only one step in the
It's only
green.
one of
It-
the
it
5
does.
criteria.
But it's
a
one of the
step.
ones that requires town meeting, so.
Right, and
Yeah.
Kelly Brown, who did speak at the last
Yeah.
meeting, is available to come when that
Yeah.
planning board gets scheduled.
That would be annual town meeting, right?
Yes, that is
Not
correct,
February.
yes. No. Don't worry, February won't be, we need to quorum in, well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but, okay. Moving along, just to keep the meeting upbeat here, let's go on to, update on Minuteman.
Okay, so we had a building committee meeting this past Monday. A team from Minuteman met with the project scope and, had a project scope and budget meeting with the MSBA representatives. Very recently, the project was presented to them. It was received very favorably. The MSBA committee will be voting on it January 27th, and we anticipate no issues with the MSBA supporting the project. For some good news, as we've been saying in all the presentations, the MSBA reimbursement rate that we've been quoting is 40%, knowing that we had some upside potential for some green activity, work that we're doing, green energy. Also, using a construction manager at risk, which for a project of any size is a very positive thing to do. We got bonus points for that. So the reimbursement rate that we're eligible for now is 44.75% as opposed to 40, so we've gone up 475 points, if you will. We discovered that we have $1 million more in eligible project costs than we anticipated, so we'll have $1 million more of expense that's eligible for the MSBA reimbursement. And the effective reimbursement rate, if you will, because we do have non-eligible project costs, works out to 31.2% for the entire project.
Sorry, Don, what's the total number they're talking about now? What is it, 145?
It would be 144.9 with an effective reimbursement rate of 31.2, which equates, if my notes are correct, that equates to about, well, I think about $45.3 million if I took the notes correctly.
In your reimbursement.
In the reimbursable expenses. The other thing is, and I know we're getting into it when we get to the special town meeting, but just to remind people that the difference, for the regional agreement, every community must vote to affirm the agreement by June 30th, or well before June 30th, or we lose the MSBA funding. It's not like when we're going forward with a potential bonding, where if a community doesn't hold a vote on it, it's a passive yes. And it's only a no if you vote no. For the regional agreement, every community must have a special town meeting, and every community must vote to approve it. So I just wanted to reaffirm that. So things are moving forward in a very positive way. Any questions on Minuteman?
And there's been no town meetings yet? Right?
No, the first town meetings, I think, begin last week in January. The majority of them are taking place the first 2 weeks in February. And they must be done, I think, by February 25th or 27th, I forget which. So we're on a very aggressive schedule. Okay, but there's no other questions there. I just wanted to note, State Representative Kate Hogan and her staff were in Town Hall Monday morning to come in and try to meet people and talk about whatever is going on. I met with Kate for probably about 20 minutes. My main question was, with the 9C cuts that the governor made on Friday, did it look like we were going to have any impacts of any significance to the district, to the town? And it didn't appear that we would because of where the cuts fell. So I just want to let you know I had that discussion with Kate. And also, last Friday, the 3 town administrators from Lancaster, Stowe, and myself met with the new interim superintendent of schools, Dr. Bates, Had about a 1-hour meeting where we discussed, philosophy on the budget, communication goals for, working closely with him and so forth. It was a very good meeting. All 3 town administrators were quite candid in their opinions. He did more listening than anything else, but from what the comments that he made, I found him to be very impressive, and I think it'll be helpful to have him on board during the budget process.
Good. Okay, now we've had a good lead into this. Next is to vote to call a special town meeting for February 8th.
We have the warrant.
Hopefully.
Both articles.
So the primary goal for this, this was really initiated to vote to adopt the amendments to the Minuteman agreement. Since we're having the meeting, we threw one extra item on, which is to pay an unpaid bill from fiscal 2015. It would normally have shown up in the Maytown meeting, but since we're, if you throw something extra on there, maybe we'll get an extra person or 2 to show up.
So just for a note for Article 1, the unpaid bill, because it's a special town meeting, requires a 9/10 majority.
Okay.
For an annual town meeting, it's a 4/5 majority. So we made sure that we got that correct. So the selectmen will need to vote their recommendation for that article.
Yep. Okay. That's just the one side that we have to worry about. So. Okay, so do we have a recommendation for Article 1?
Make a motion, we approve Article 1.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, very good. Article 2 is the amendments to the regional agreement. Bolton had actually approved the previous amendments. There were a couple of towns, or there was one town that rejected it, and 5 towns that didn't vote on the updated agreement. There's been a lot of work going into getting those 6 communities to support the agreement, and the amendments that we'll be voting on just represent those changes, which are relatively minor. One of them is previously there was all of the charges were assumed a 5-student minimum, regardless of how many. So a town like Dover, who usually sends 1 or maybe 2, was paying a pretty hefty premium for that, which is why they were looking at getting out of the district, even though the representative is the person leading the building committee. So that 5-student minimum has been dropped. So I think are they still talking about getting out, or are they?
They are. Well, it will be on their warrant, but it appears to be unlikely that they'll withdraw.
Okay. And there are a few other communities that are talking about getting out, but they would still have to be paying any capital cost, or they want to get out, but they still want to send their students there. So I'm not sure why. People don't vote in their own best interest at times, so they will be, under the new agreement, they'll be paying the capital costs, but they won't have a vote anymore. So I'm not sure how that helps them, but.
I can say that with the changes that are being brought forward, when we discussed this at the building committee on Monday, the chairman, Fort Spalding from Dover, said that while there are 7 communities who will have the question of whether or not to withdraw on their warrants, in fact, the likelihood is probably 2, perhaps 3 might actually vote to withdraw because of the changes that have been made here.
And then you vote by the town, then has to be approved by DESI.
Yes, DESI is the final arbiter, so if DESI feels it's not, either it's not in the best interest of the district, or, and I think more to DESI's concern will be, because we're not talking a large number of students, is the town still has to send those students somewhere.
Right.
And where are they going to send them? And I'm not sure all the towns have thought completely through that yet.
Right. And none of the folk schools have very much open space, so finding so why would you leave someplace where you have a guaranteed seat to go someplace where you might or might not be able to get into on any given year? So, but that's beyond the scope of any of this. As far as I know, we're not entertaining leaving the district.
I actually did do, I did do a search on if we were to propose to withdraw, where would we go, and our prospects were dim. For instance, Assabet has no capacity.
Yeah.
They're at 100% capacity. Monty Tech had a wait list of 100 students when I called. And I spoke to the superintendent of another district, and it didn't appear that their curriculum might be the best fit for us. So I did investigate that, and there really was no practical alternative.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have a...
I'll make a motion to approve Article 2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
It should be noted that because we're doing this tonight and the advisory committee met on Tuesday before we had a chance to get this done, that their recommendation will be given on town meeting floor, and that's the way it will be in the warrant. It's not that they couldn't decide, it's that they won't be able to decide.
Yeah, they didn't have the opportunity.
Because of timing.
Dave Lindsay, Berlin Road. How will the town's voters find out the issues and what the changes are and so forth?
Well, there will be a presentation at the town meeting.
Okay.
And I've received quite a bit of information late today from the district. I asked for one more piece of information. They did a very good job of breaking down percentage changes in assessment and projections and so forth, and overall cost impact to the assessment, but they didn't have an estimate on people's tax rates, tax bills, not tax rate. And we had that in the previous presentation. So we wanted to be able, I wanted to be able to say, for each town, what the impact to the average annual tax bill would be, and they said they would have that by Tuesday or Wednesday. So we'll get all of that up on the webpage.
Okay, you're not going to send out a warrant the way we do for an annual town?
We are. We're going to be mailing this. We're going to be mailing this.
And that'll have a discussion of the article?
It has a summary in here that was written by Minuteman.
Okay. So the main way people in the town will get information before town meeting would be on the website?
Yes. And this information and more is also on the Minuteman website. So we'll give a pointer to that from our webpage.
I wonder if that news and announcements function could be done with a link to the information, because
sure.
I find, I get that in my email every couple of days, and I find that kind of useful to know what's going on, and I would guess there are a fair number of other people who are interested in town affairs. Might also be a way to drum up your quorum.
Well, we definitely need the quorum.
We're talking Tuesday night about the difficulty of getting a quorum.
So I'm definitely concerned about getting a quorum, and I've expressed concerns to Minuteman about getting a quorum and ways that we can communicate to the townspeople, and they are obviously very interested in helping. So depending on what methods we go, if there's a reminder, if they do an emailing or whatever, or even a traditional mailing, there has to be a way that we can get a lot of this data out to them at the same time.
Okay, any other questions? No?
I think we need to vote.
You need to vote to close it, execute the warrant.
But don't we need to vote to call a special town meeting first?
You do.
Yes, we should do that first.
Okay.
Make a motion that we vote to call a special town meeting for February 8th, 2016.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At 7 p.m.
At 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And we need at least 75
75.
Right.
registered voters to come out and hopefully support, but at least engage in the discussions.
Is it in Neshoba?
At the high school,
Yes.
yeah. And I'm sure that we'll be seeing a lot of details in the paper as well on this.
Does any of this require more than a majority vote? I know the bill does.
No, Article 2 does not. It's a
Oh,
simple
it's
majority.
All right, so I guess next I'll make a motion to close the warrant and to execute the special town meeting warrant.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So here's the second page for all of you to sign. There's a number of copies.
I swear.
We're thinking the mortgage.
Keep signing.
Yep.
John, so you said Assabet was full up?
Yes.
And what you said, you called another one and it...
Monty Tech had a 100-student wait list at the time. And for each, I spoke with the superintendent. Ironically, the superintendent now for Assabet is the former principal from Minuteman.
What about the one on 110 up in Chelmsford?
I'm sorry?
The technical school up on...
Neshoba Valley Tech. I spoke with the superintendent there as well.
And they're full?
They weren't full, but it didn't appear to be a particular, as good a fit. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's see, next is review and accept revisions to the home rule petition for Slaters.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay. Where do we have that here? So as you know, at a recent selectmen's meeting, we changed the wording on the article on the home rule petition based on input that we received from House Counsel. Now that this progressed to the, House Counsel. This progressed to the committee for third readings, and they wanted other language. So now we are responding to the requests of the legislature and bending to their will, so, because we have no choice. I mean, and this is very pro forma, so it's not that anything was done incorrectly, it's that different bodies wish to see it different ways, and if this ever happens again, we're gonna be using the exact language that we've got here and see how long that survives.
So does this undo any of the changes the House wanted to put in?
No, it does not.
Okay.
So I do recommend that you approve it as
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's fine. Motion.
Make a motion that we accept the revisions to the home rule petition for Slaters.
Yeah, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Get a half dozen lawyers and you get 2 dozen opinions. Okay.
Is that with regard to their liquor license?
yes.
Yeah, it was approved at town meeting with what we thought the correct language was. The House came back and said, well, that's good, but, and now the Senate's coming back and saying, well, that's better, but. So,
But we're not casting aspersions on lawyers.
no, we're not casting any aspersions, just on their ability to tweak language. Okay, next is a request to approve the change of corporate name for the liquor license for Fatini Restaurant and Bar.
Yes, we've reviewed that with the owners, and they've completed the required paperwork that the ABCC said that they need, and really the board just needs to sign off on that and to approve it as presented, and then it'll go into the ABCC for their final approval.
I'm fine with it.
And there's nothing, no material change?
No material change, just a change in the corporate name.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the request for the change of the corporate name for liquor license for Fortini Restaurant and Bar.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So you just need to sign it, like in all of you.
What's the new name?
Fortini.
Fortini Restaurant.
Well, the restaurant name is the same, the
Yes, it is just one.
company that owns it is.
It's no longer an LLC, it's now a corporation.
Oh, that's the main change.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Lawyers again, huh?
No. ABCC, no. Okay.
Accountants, actually.
Yeah. Tax law. Okay, next, a request from Bolton Access Television to release funds for Bolton Access TV operations.
Oh, it's good to see you guys again. Another quarter goes by. Mark?
Just seemed like last week you were 10 from a
Yeah, it's every 4 months. So as you know, Comcast funds your local public access television station with quarterly payments. And our last payment was, I think, in late November. And so I'm here to request the $26,535 to be used to fund our operations for the next quarter.
Have we received that check?
We have.
Okay. They weren't late this time, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm fine with that. Everybody good?
Yeah.
And I'll make a motion that we approve the request from Bolton Access Television to release funds in the amount of $26,535.94 from the PEG account.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're all set.
Justice has been done. I thought you guys might like to see some of the good work that was done over the last year, so I had the annual report. And then the last page is also a budget for what we expect to be spending next year.
Great.
And it's pretty much a run rate of what we've been doing for 2015.
Oh, thank you.
Great.
I can also email you guys a copy if you'd like it.
Please, you very
Yeah,
much.
sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right.
Frank, thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, for
That's
organizing.
probably the fastest 26 grand you've ever got.
See you in February.
And as I emailed the board earlier this afternoon, there's no need for the executive session tonight.
And I don't think there are any minutes.
Okay. Then, there's nothing else. Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. You're all free to go.
There we go.